Oh, family story like no other. Have you ever looked at your own family and thought, wow, we could be a reality TV show? Our family stories are often filled with drama, love, unexpected twists, a bit of chaos. We have moments of great joy, moments of deep disappointment. We see people we love make questionable choices. We see them show incredible strength. This complex mix is what makes family stories so compelling. Good, bad, success, failure. They are real. They are messy. They teach us about what it means to be human. This is the world we are about to step into, from the ancient book of Genesis. We're exploring Genesis chapters 20 to 50, one of the oldest family sagas. It's not a neat tale with perfect heroes. It's a raw, honest account of a family chosen for a purpose, yet struggling like we do. Sibling rivalry that gets dangerously out of hand. Deception between parents and children. Moments of profound faith. Moments of baffling fear. Even people tied to a divine plan are still, at their core, just people. Our journey begins with Abraham, who had already received a huge promise from God. He would become the father of a great nation. Through his family, the whole world would be blessed. As we enter chapter 20, Abraham is an old man. His promised son has not yet arrived. The clock is ticking. The promise seems to hang by a thread. We follow the promise through generations: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the 12 great-grandsons, the 12 tribes of Israel. More than history, how God works through messy lives to achieve a grander purpose. A story of faith, family, failure, forgiveness. A promise unfolds not in a straight line, but through winding paths, detours, dead ends. Characters wrestle with their destinies, with each other, with God Himself. This is the fast guide you needed to understand this powerful, timeless family drama. It still shapes our understanding of faith and life. In this exploration of Genesis 20 through 50, we will follow the main characters on their life-changing journeys. We will start with Abraham in his final years, watching how his faith is tested even after decades of following God. Then, we will meet his quiet son, Isaac, who inherits the great promise, but faces his own unique challenges and family conflicts. The story then takes a dramatic turn with Isaac's son, Jacob. Jacob is a complex character, a trickster, who spends years on the run, building a large family through complicated marriages, and eventually wrestling with an angel to receive a new name and a new identity. From Jacob's complicated family, one son emerges to take center stage: Joseph. His story is one of the most famous in the entire Bible, a true, from the pit to the palace adventure. Betrayed by his jealous brothers and sold into slavery in Egypt, Joseph endures years of hardship. Yet, through his ability to interpret dreams and his unwavering integrity, he rises to become one of the most powerful men in the world. Joseph's journey is a powerful lesson in resilience, but it is also the key that unlocks the final chapter of this family saga, bringing everyone back together in a way no one could have predicted. Throughout this series, we will focus on several key themes that weave through these chapters. The first is the theme of God's promise. We will constantly ask, how is God's promise to Abraham being kept alive, even when everything seems to be going wrong? We will also look closely at family dynamics, exploring the deep-seated conflicts and the powerful moments of reconciliation that define this story. We will see how failure is not the end of the story, but often a turning point for growth, and how forgiveness has the power to heal even the deepest wounds. Our goal is to make these ancient stories clear, accessible, and relevant to your life today. We will break down the events in a simple way, avoiding confusing jargon and focusing on the human drama. We will use plain language and ask questions to help you connect with the characters and their struggles. By the end, we will tie everything together with a clear takeaway message that you can apply to your own life and your own family story. So, get ready for a journey filled with promise, problems, and the powerful unfolding of a divine plan through one very human family. Our story picks up with Abraham, who is now very old. He has walked with God for many years, but his journey is not over, and neither are his mistakes. As we enter chapter 20, Abraham and his wife Sarah travel to a new land called Gerar. Out of fear, Abraham tells the local king, Abimelech, that Sarah is his sister, not his wife. This is the second time he has done this. He is afraid the king will kill him to take Sarah. Even a great man of faith can struggle with fear and repeat the same errors. It's a very human moment. Following God doesn't make us perfect overnight. King Abimelech, believing Abraham, takes Sarah into his palace. God intervenes directly. He comes to Abimelech in a dream and warns him Sarah is a married woman and he must return her. The king is shocked and righteous. He acted honestly on the information he had. This shows God protecting his promise, even when Abraham's actions put it at risk. God works through a pagan king to correct the mistake. God's plan is bigger than human weakness, and he can use anyone to accomplish his will. After the dream, Abimelech confronts Abraham. "What have you done to us?" It's a fair question. Abraham's fear almost brought disaster to the kingdom. Abraham says he feared there was no fear of God there. The king returns Sarah and gives Abraham sheep, cattle, silver, and invites him to live anywhere in his land. This generous response surprises. It shows integrity and grace from a king Abraham assumed was godless. A humbling lesson for Abraham, showing God's presence and protection are not limited by his fears or assumptions. This episode sets the stage for what's next. A final messy detour before the biggest event of their lives. It reinforces the central theme. God is faithful even when his people aren't. He is committed to his promise to bring a child through Abraham and Sarah, and nothing, not even Abraham's mistakes, will stop it. The story teaches trust. Our failures do not disqualify us from God's plan. They become opportunities to see his faithfulness in a new, powerful way, preparing us for the blessings to come. Finally, after decades of waiting, the moment arrives. Genesis 21. God visits Sarah as he had said. She becomes pregnant. At 90, Sarah gives birth to a son. It happens just as God promised a year earlier. Abraham, now 100, names him Isaac. Isaac means he laughs. The name echoes their first disbelieving laughter. Now their laughter is pure joy. The impossible has happened. The promise is now a living child in their arms. Isaac's birth changes the family. Joy floods the house, but new tensions surface. Sarah sees Ishmael, Abraham's son with Hagar, mocking Isaac. To her it's not play, it's a threat. She fears Isaac's inheritance and place in God's plan. Her protective instincts kick in. She demands Abraham send Hagar and Ishmael away. Abraham is devastated. Ishmael is his son too. The idea of sending him into the desert breaks his heart. He is torn between wife and son. He doesn't know what to do. Then God speaks to Abraham directly. God tells him to listen to Sarah and assures him the covenant continues through Isaac. God also shows compassion for Ishmael. He promises a great nation for Ishmael, because he is Abraham's son. God's plan centers on Isaac, but his care extends beyond the promise. This reveals a God who is both covenant-focused and merciful. Comforted, Abraham agrees. Early the next morning, he gives Hagar and Ishmael food and water and sends them away. It's a heartbreaking consequence of earlier choices and jealousy. In the desert, their water runs out. Hagar prepares for her son to die. But God hears the boy's cry. An angel calls out and provides a well of water. The angel repeats the promise that Ishmael will become a great nation. Even when families are broken and people are cast out, God does not abandon them. His care is vast, and his promises are kept, even in the wilderness. Just when it seems the promise is secure, we come to one of the most difficult and challenging stories, the binding of Isaac in Genesis 22. After years of peace, God tests Abraham in a way that seems unimaginable. He says, "Take your son, your only son whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering." This command seems to contradict everything God has promised. Isaac is the child of the promise, the future of the nation. How could God ask Abraham to destroy the very gift he had provided after so many years of waiting? This test is not about God being cruel. It is about revealing the depth of Abraham's faith. It asks the ultimate question: does Abraham trust the giver more than the gift? Does he believe that God's promise is so powerful that it can even overcome death? Abraham's response is immediate and obedient. The next morning, he gets up, saddles his donkey, and sets off with Isaac and 2 servants. The 3-day journey must have been filled with silent agony. Every step would have been a struggle, a battle between his love for his son and his trust in his God. When they arrive at the mountain, Isaac asks his father a heartbreaking question. The fire and wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? This question cuts right to the heart of the matter. Abraham's answer is filled with profound faith.
He says, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son.
This statement shows that even in this terrible moment, Abraham held onto a sliver of hope that God would intervene. He believed that God had a solution, even if he could not see it. He trusted that the God who could bring life from a barren womb could also provide a way out of this impossible situation. At the top of the mountain, Abraham builds an altar, ties up his son Isaac, and lays him on the wood. He raises the knife.
At that very last second, an angel of the Lord calls out from heaven, Abraham, Abraham, do not lay a hand on the boy.
The angel tells him that now God knows that Abraham fears him because he has not withheld his only son. Abraham looks up and sees a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. He sacrifices the ram instead of his son. Because of his ultimate act of trust, God reaffirms his covenant with Abraham, promising again that his descendants will be as numerous as the stars and that through his offspring, all nations will be blessed. After the intense drama on Mount Moriah, the story moves to a more practical concern: securing the future of the promise. Sarah passes away at the age of 127. Abraham buries her in a cave in Hebron, the first piece of the promised land he officially owns. With Sarah gone, Abraham's focus shifts to his son Isaac. Isaac is an adult, but unmarried. For the promise to continue, Isaac needs a wife. Abraham is clear. He does not want Isaac to marry a woman from Canaan, the land where they live, because their culture and beliefs differ. Abraham gives his trusted servant an important mission. He makes him swear to go back to Abraham's homeland, to the land of his relatives, and find a wife for Isaac there. It's a task of faith. The servant must travel far to a land he may not know, find a woman he's never met, convince her to leave her family, travel to a new land, and marry a man she's never seen. Worried, the servant asks practical questions. What if she won't come? Abraham answers, God will send an angel ahead to ensure success. The servant travels to Nahor in Mesopotamia and devises a test. He prays by a well for a specific sign. He prays that when he asks a young woman for a drink, she will give him water and also offer to water his 10 camels. That would show extraordinary kindness and hospitality. Before he finishes praying, Rebekah arrives at the well. The servant asks for a drink. She responds exactly as he prayed, drawing water for all his camels. The servant is amazed. He knows he's found the one. He gives her expensive gold jewelry and asks about her family. He finds she's the granddaughter of Abraham's brother Nahor. She's from his clan. The servant bows and worships God in thanks. Rebekah's family welcomes him, recognizes God's hand. They agree to let her go. She is willing and travels back with the servant to Canaan, where she meets and marries Isaac, securing the family line and the promise. With Isaac married to Rebekah, Abraham's life story draws to a close. He has fulfilled his primary purpose. He has fathered the child of the promise and secured a wife for him from his own people, setting the stage for the next generation. The Bible tells us that Abraham took another wife named Keturah and had more sons. However, he made a clear distinction. He gave gifts to these other sons and sent them away to the east, away from Isaac. This was to ensure that there would be no confusion or conflict over the inheritance. Isaac alone was the heir of the covenant promise that God had made with Abraham. Abraham lived to be 175 years old, a long and full life. When he died, he was gathered to his people, an old man and full of years. His death marks the end of an era. He is the great patriarch, the father of faith, the man who left everything he knew to follow a divine call. His story was not one of perfection, but of persistent faith. He stumbled, he doubted, and he made mistakes. Yet, he always returned to God, and his trust grew stronger through each test. His life serves as a powerful example of what it means to walk with God over the long haul. In a poignant and hopeful moment, the Bible records that his two sons, Isaac and Ishmael, came together to bury him in the cave of Machpelah, the same place where he had buried Sarah. These two half-brothers stand side by side to honor their father. It is a quiet moment of reconciliation, or at least of shared duty. It brings a sense of peace to the end of Abraham's story. It shows that even after years of separation and tension, family bonds can still bring people together in times of loss. The patriarch is laid to rest by both of his sons. The closing verses of Genesis 25 transition the story from one generation to the next. After Abraham's death, the Bible states simply, God blessed his son Isaac. The torch has been passed. The divine promise now rests on Isaac's shoulders. The narrative immediately pivots to his family, noting that Rebekah was barren, just as Sarah had been. This sets up the next chapter of the story, where Isaac will have to learn to trust God for a child, just as his father did. The cycle of waiting, praying, and trusting God to fulfill his promise begins again, showing that each generation must develop its own faith and face its own challenges. After Abraham's death, the great promise from God now rests with his son, Isaac. The story repeats a familiar pattern. Isaac's wife, Rebekah, is unable to have children. For 20 years, they wait and pray. This long period of waiting shows us that God's timing is often different from our own. It teaches each generation to rely on God directly, not just on the stories of their parents. Finally, Isaac pleads with the Lord for his wife, and God answers his prayer. Rebekah becomes pregnant, but her pregnancy is unusually difficult. She feels a violent struggle within her womb, as if a battle is being fought inside her. Confused and in pain, she asks God, "Why is this happening to me?" God's answer to Rebekah is a prophecy that sets the stage for the entire next chapter of Genesis. He tells her that two nations are in her womb. Two peoples from within her will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other. The older will serve the younger. This is a shocking and countercultural statement. In the ancient world, the firstborn son always received the primary inheritance and position of authority. God is declaring from the very beginning that he is going to turn this tradition upside down. This divine choice will create tension and conflict that will ripple through the family for decades to come. When the time comes, Rebekah gives birth to twin boys. The first one born is red and hairy. They name him Esau. The name echoes the Hebrew word for hairy. As he is born, his brother comes out grasping his heel. This second son is named Jacob. Jacob means he grasps the heel. More figuratively, he deceives. The names these boys are given at birth hint at their future characters and the conflict that will define their relationship. From the moment they enter the world, they are already in competition, one trying to get ahead of the other. The stage is set for a lifetime of sibling rivalry. As the boys grow up, their differences become even more pronounced. Esau becomes a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, rugged and impulsive. He is his father Isaac's favorite because Isaac loves the wild game Esau brings home. Jacob, on the other hand, is a quiet man, preferring to stay at home among the tents. He is his mother Rebekah's favorite. This parental favoritism creates a deep division within the family, splitting it into two camps. This unhealthy dynamic pours fuel on the brothers' natural rivalry and lays the groundwork for the deception and heartbreak that will soon follow. The first major clash between the brothers happens over something called the birthright. In their culture, the birthright belonged to the firstborn son, Esau. It entitled him to a double portion of the family inheritance. It also gave him the position of family leader. One day, Esau comes in from the wilderness. He is exhausted and starving. Jacob has just cooked a pot of red lentil stew. Esau, driven by immediate hunger, begs Jacob for some. Jacob, ever the opportunist, sees his chance. He tells Esau he will give him the stew, but only if Esau swears to sell him his birthright in exchange. Esau's response reveals his character. He says, "Look, I am about to die. What good is the birthright to me?" He dismisses his future inheritance and position as trivial compared to his hunger. He values immediate satisfaction over long-term blessing and responsibility. So, he makes an oath. He sells his birthright to Jacob for a bowl of stew and for some bread. This story shows the contrast between the brothers. Esau is impulsive. He lives for the moment. Jacob is cunning. Jacob is patient. Jacob is always looking for an advantage. Jacob legally secures the birthright, but he exploits his brother's weakness. Years later, a much more serious deception occurs. Isaac is now old. Isaac is blind. He believes he is near death. He wants to give his official patriarchal blessing to his favorite son, Esau, before he dies. This blessing is more than well wishes. It's a spoken prophecy believed to determine a person's future. It carries the weight of God's covenant promise. Isaac tells Esau to go out and hunt some wild game, and to prepare his favorite meal. After he eats, Isaac will give him the blessing. Rebekah overhears and decides to intervene. She is driven by favoritism for Jacob, and by her memory of God's prophecy that the older would serve the younger. Rebekah devises a plan for Jacob to steal the blessing. She quickly prepares a savory meal from 2 young goats. She covers Jacob's smooth hands with goatskins. She covers his neck with goatskins. She makes him feel hairy like Esau. She tells Jacob to go to his father, to pretend to be Esau, and to receive the blessing instead. Jacob is hesitant, not because he thinks it's wrong, but because he's afraid of being caught, and of receiving a curse instead of a blessing. Rebekah is determined, saying, "Let the curse fall on me, my son. Just do what I say." Jacob, now a fugitive, flees for his life. He is completely alone, stripped of his family and home, with nothing but the staff in his hand. He is heading toward Haran, a place he has never been. As night falls, he stops in a random place, takes a stone for a pillow, and lies down to sleep. In this moment of vulnerability and uncertainty, God meets him. Jacob has a powerful dream. He sees a great stairway, a ladder, its top reaching to heaven. Angels ascend and descend, a constant traffic between heaven and earth. At the top stands the Lord himself. God speaks directly to Jacob. "I am the God of your grandfather Abraham and the God of your father Isaac." He transfers the covenant promise to Jacob. "I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring." This is a monumental moment. Despite Jacob's deceitful actions, God reaffirms his promise. He is not rewarding Jacob's behavior, but showing his sovereign plan won't be derailed by human scheming. God's promise also includes personal protection and presence. "I am with you, will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you." Exactly what a lonely, frightened fugitive needs to hear. A promise of guidance, protection, and eventual restoration. God becomes Jacob's God, personally invested. The encounter transforms Jacob's understanding of God. When Jacob wakes, he is filled with awe and fear. "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." This is not random. It is holy, a gateway to heaven. He takes the stone he used as a pillow, sets it up as a pillar, and pours oil on it to consecrate it. He names the place Bethel, House of God, the beginning of Jacob's personal faith journey. He has a long way to go and many lessons to learn, but for the first time, he has encountered God for himself and received the promise directly. Section 4. The deceiver is deceived. Following his life-changing dream at Bethel, Jacob continues his journey to Haran, the homeland of his relatives. He finds shepherds at a well. He asks them if they know a man named Laban, his mother's brother. They do, and they point out Laban's daughter. Rachel approaches with her father's sheep. Jacob is immediately captivated by Rachel's beauty. In a burst of energy, he runs to the well. He single-handedly rolls the heavy stone from the well's mouth. He waters her flock. He reveals who he is, Rebekah's son. He is welcomed warmly into Laban's home. The fugitive has found a safe haven. After a month of work, Laban offers to pay wages. He asks Jacob what he wants. Jacob, deeply in love with Rachel, makes an offer. "I'll work 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel. Laban agrees. For Jacob, the 7 years feel like only a few days. This shows a nobler side of Jacob, willing to work long and hard for the woman he loves. At the end of 7 years, he asks for his wife. Laban prepares a great wedding feast. Under cover of darkness, Laban orchestrates a deception. He brings his older daughter, Leah, to Jacob's tent instead of Rachel. In the morning, Jacob discovers the switch. He is outraged and confronts Laban. Laban claims it's their custom to give the older daughter before the younger. A weak justification for blatant deceit. The trickster becomes the victim. Laban offers a deal. Finish Leah's bridal week. Then you can also marry Rachel, in exchange for another 7 years of work. Jacob, trapped by love, agrees. He ends up with 2 wives who are sisters. Jealousy, competition, pain. This entire episode is poetic justice. Jacob, who deceived his blind father by pretending to be his brother, is now deceived in the dark by his uncle. He learns a hard lesson about the consequences of deception. He is now on the receiving end of the same manipulation he used to get what he wanted. Section 5. Wrestling with God and facing the past. Section 5. Wrestling with God and facing the past. After 20 long years in Haran working for his deceptive uncle Laban, Jacob has become a wealthy man with a large family. He has 2 wives, 2 concubines, 11 sons, a daughter, massive flocks of sheep and goats. God tells him it is time to return to his homeland, Canaan. Jacob secretly flees with his family and all his possessions, but Laban pursues him with men. They have a tense confrontation. They eventually make a covenant of peace and part ways. Now only one obstacle remains, facing his brother, Esau. Jacob is terrified. He hears Esau is coming to meet him with 400 men. He assumes the worst, that Esau is coming for revenge. In his fear, Jacob turns to prayer. His prayer is humble and honest. He reminds God of his promise and admits his unworthiness, saying, I am not worthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. He prays for deliverance from his brother's hand. Then, he devises a practical plan. He divides his family and flocks into 2 groups, hoping that if one is attacked, the other might escape. He also prepares a lavish gift of hundreds of animals to send ahead to appease Esau. That night, after sending his family across the Jabbok River, Jacob is left alone. In the darkness, a mysterious man appears and begins to wrestle with him. They struggle all night long, a physical and spiritual battle of epic proportions. As dawn approaches, the man sees he cannot overpower Jacob, so he touches Jacob's hip and wrenches it out of its socket. Even with this painful injury, Jacob refuses to let go. The man tells him to let go, but Jacob says, I will not let you go unless you bless me. This is a turning point for Jacob. He is no longer trying to trick his way to a blessing. He is desperately clinging to God, demanding one face to face. The man then asks Jacob for his name. When he says, I am Jacob, the man declares, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome. Israel means he struggles with God. Jacob receives a new name, a new identity, and the blessing he so desperately sought. He also walks away with a permanent limp, a physical reminder of his encounter. This wrestling match symbolizes Jacob's entire life of struggle, but it ends with him finally clinging to God instead of his own schemes. Transformed and blessed, he is now ready to face his brother, not as the deceiver Jacob, but as the blessed Israel. Section 1. The Coat of Many Colors. The story now shifts its focus to the next generation, to Jacob's 12 sons. Among them, one stands out, Joseph. Joseph, the firstborn son of Jacob's beloved wife, Rachel. Because he was the child of Jacob's old age and the son of the wife he loved most, Jacob favored Joseph immensely. This favoritism was not subtle. Jacob made a special gift for Joseph, an ornate, colorful coat. This wasn't just clothing. It was a symbol of status and authority, the kind a leader or heir might wear. When his 10 older brothers saw this coat, they saw it as a sign their father loved Joseph more. It fueled deep, bitter jealousy that grew into outright hatred, so much so they could not speak a kind word to him. Joseph, young and perhaps naive, did not help. He began having powerful dreams, and he made the mistake of sharing them with his brothers. In the first dream, he said they were binding sheaves of grain in a field. Suddenly his sheaf stood upright. Their sheaves gathered around and bowed down to it. One day they'd all bow down to him. The dream infuriated his brothers. They retorted sarcastically, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" Their hatred grew stronger. Soon after, Joseph had another dream, and he shared it with his brothers and his father. He dreamed that the sun, the moon, 11 stars were all bowing down to him. This time, even his father Jacob rebuked him, asking, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" While Jacob questioned the dream, he kept the matter in mind, sensing these might be more than youthful arrogance. They might be prophecies from God. For the brothers, this was the last straw. Consumed by jealousy, they began to plot against their younger brother. Jacob's favoritism created a toxic family environment. The special coat was a constant, visible reminder of Joseph's elevated status, and his dreams seemed to confirm his brother's worst fears that he would one day rule them. Instead of a united family, they were a collection of resentful siblings simmering with anger toward one favored son. This story is a cautionary tale about the destructive nature of parental favoritism. It set the stage for a terrible betrayal that would tear the family apart and send Joseph on a journey of unimaginable hardship, a journey that would ultimately, and ironically, lead to the fulfillment of his dreams. The brothers' simmering hatred soon boiled over into violent action. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his older brothers, who were grazing the family's flocks near Shechem. When the brothers saw Joseph approaching from a distance, wearing his special coat, they saw their opportunity. Their jealousy erupted into a murderous plot. "Here comes that dreamer. Come now, let's kill him. Throw him into one of these cisterns. Say that a ferocious animal devoured him." They were ready to eliminate both Joseph and the future his dreams foretold. Reuben, the oldest brother, felt a pang of responsibility. He didn't want Joseph's blood on his hands. He convinced his brothers not to kill him directly. He suggested they throw him into an empty cistern, a deep pit in the desert. His secret plan: come back later, rescue Joseph, return him to their father. The brothers agreed to this plan. When Joseph arrived, they attacked him violently, stripped him of his colorful coat, and threw him into the dry pit. They sat down to eat while their brother was trapped below. While they ate, Judah had a different idea. He saw a caravan of Ishmaelite merchants heading to Egypt. Judah argued there was no profit in killing him and covering it up. He suggested they sell Joseph as a slave to the traders. This way, they'd be rid of him without direct blood on their hands. "He is our brother, our own flesh and blood." Greed and a sliver of conscience swayed them. They agreed. They pulled Joseph out of the pit and sold him for 20 shekels of silver. He became a piece of merchandise. To cover the crime, they took Joseph's coat, dipped it in goat's blood, and brought it back to Jacob. They said, "We found this. Examine it to see if it is your son's robe." Jacob recognized it and fell into deep despair. He concluded a wild animal had killed his son. He tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and mourned for Joseph for a very long time. His children tried to comfort him, but he refused. The brothers' lie cast a shadow of grief over the family for more than 2 decades. Joseph's journey as a slave led him to Egypt, where he was purchased by a man named Potiphar. Potiphar was not just anyone. He was the captain of Pharaoh's guard, a high-ranking, influential official. Even as a slave, Joseph's story turns upward. The Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered. Potiphar saw Joseph was competent, trustworthy, successful. He recognized Joseph's success came from his God. Potiphar promoted Joseph. He put him in charge of the entire household. He entrusted him with everything he owned. Joseph's integrity and skill earned great responsibility. Joseph was skilled, well-built, handsome. This drew Potiphar's wife's attention. Day after day, she tried to seduce him. Joseph consistently refused. His refusal wasn't only loyalty to Potiphar, it was rooted in commitment to God. My master has entrusted everything in his house to my care. You are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? Joseph's moral compass was firm. He knew betraying his master would be a sin against God. He resolved to remain faithful under pressure. The daily temptation reached a crisis. One day, with no other servants around, Potiphar's wife grabbed Joseph by his cloak. She demanded he come to bed with her. Joseph fled to escape. He left his cloak behind in her hand. The same garment once symbolized his father's favor. It was later used to deceive his father. Now it became false evidence against him. Spurned and furious, she sought revenge. She called her household servants and lied. She claimed the Hebrew slave had insulted her. She said he ran away when she screamed, leaving the cloak. When Potiphar returned, she showed him the cloak as proof. Consumed with rage, Potiphar had Joseph arrested. Joseph was thrown into the king's prison, the place for the king's personal prisoners. Once again, Joseph was betrayed and unjustly punished. He had resisted temptation and honored God, yet his reward was a dark, cold prison cell. From power in Potiphar's house, he was plunged to the bottom. It seemed his integrity had cost him everything, and his future looked bleaker than ever. Even in the darkness of the royal prison, Joseph's story was not over. Just as in Potiphar's house, the Lord was with him. God showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. The warden saw Joseph's reliability and integrity. Soon he put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners. The warden trusted Joseph so completely that he paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care. Once again, despite his circumstances, Joseph rose to a position of leadership. He was a prisoner, but he was running the prison. This shows Joseph's character and God's favor were not dependent on location, but on faithfulness. Sometime later, two of Pharaoh's personal officials were thrown into the same prison, the chief cupbearer, the chief baker. Joseph was assigned to attend to them. One morning, he noticed both men looking dejected and sad. He asked why they looked so troubled. They said they'd each had a dream the night before. No one to interpret them.
Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams.
The chief cupbearer went first. He described a dream of a vine. The vine had 3 branches. The branches budded. The branches blossomed. They produced ripe grapes. In the dream, he squeezed the grapes into Pharaoh's cup. He placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. Joseph immediately knew the meaning. He told him the 3 branches meant 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh would lift him up. Pharaoh would restore him to his position. He would once again serve wine to the king. Joseph's interpretation brought hope. It promised imminent restoration and freedom from prison.
But when all goes well with you, remember me and show me kindness. Mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this prison. I was forcibly carried off from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing to deserve being put in a dungeon.
The cupbearer was restored exactly as Joseph predicted. But once back in the palace, surrounded by luxury and power, the chief cupbearer completely forgot Joseph. Joseph's hope for a quick release was dashed. He remained in prison, forgotten by the one person who could have helped him. Section 5. From prison to the palace. 2 full years passed. Joseph remained in prison. His act of kindness forgotten. His hope for freedom fading. Then one night, Pharaoh had 2 disturbing dreams. 7 sleek, fat cows rose from the Nile. They were devoured by 7 ugly, gaunt cows. 7 healthy, full heads of grain grew on one stalk. They were swallowed by 7 thin, scorched heads of grain. Pharaoh woke deeply troubled. He summoned the magicians. He summoned the wise men. None of them could interpret the dreams. The chief cupbearer's memory was jogged. He remembered his promise to Joseph.
Today I am reminded of my shortcomings. He told Pharaoh about the Hebrew in prison who'd interpreted dreams.
Pharaoh sent for Joseph at once. Joseph was brought from the dungeon. He was shaved. He changed into fine clothes. He was rushed into the king's presence, from darkness to the royal court's light.
I have heard you can interpret dreams.
Joseph replied humbly, He gave credit to God. I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. Guided by God, Joseph explained the meaning. The two dreams were one message: 7 good cows, 7 good heads of grain, 7 years of plenty for Egypt, 7 ugly cows, 7 thin heads of grain. 7 years of terrible famine would follow. The famine would make the years of plenty forgotten. Joseph offered a plan: appoint a discerning wise man to oversee the land, oversee collection, oversee storage, collect 1/5 of the harvest during 7 good years, create a reserve to save the country during 7 years of famine.
Pharaoh and his officials were deeply impressed.
Since God has made all this known to you, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge of my palace. All my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you.
In one day, Joseph went from forgotten prisoner to the second most powerful man in Egypt. Section 1. The final test. The severe famine that Joseph had foreseen now gripped the entire region, including the land of Canaan where his family lived. Hearing that there was grain available in Egypt, Jacob sent 10 of his sons to buy food. He kept his youngest son, Benjamin, at home. Benjamin was the only other son of his beloved wife, Rachel. Jacob was terrified of losing him, just as he believed he had lost Joseph. When the 10 brothers arrived in Egypt, they were brought before the powerful prime minister, the man in charge of selling the grain. They did not recognize him, but Joseph knew immediately who they were. His childhood dreams were coming true. His brothers were bowing down before him. Instead of revealing himself right away, Joseph decided to test his brothers. He wanted to see if they were still the same cruel, selfish men who had sold him into slavery 20 years earlier. He spoke harshly to them, accusing them of being spies who had come to see where Egypt was vulnerable. The brothers were terrified and desperately tried to defend themselves. They told him their family story, that they were 12 brothers, sons of one man in Canaan. They explained that one brother was no more, and the youngest was at home with their father. This was the opening Joseph needed for his test. Joseph declared that he would test their story. He demanded that one of them go back and bring their youngest brother to Egypt to prove they were telling the truth. To ensure they complied, he threw them all in prison for 3 days. This experience gave the brothers a taste of the suffering Joseph had endured. On the 3rd day, Joseph modified his plan, keeping one brother, Simeon, as a hostage and sending the other 9 home with grain. He insisted they must return with Benjamin, or Simeon would die, and they would never be able to buy food from Egypt again. This put them in an impossible position, forcing them to choose between their father's grief and their family's survival. As the brothers prepared to leave, Joseph secretly ordered his servants to return their silver money, placing it back in their sacks of grain. When the brothers discovered the money on their journey home, they were filled with fear. They thought it was a trap. They thought it was a divine punishment. They thought it was another trick by the Egyptian ruler. They said to each other, "What is this that God has done to us?" For the first time, they began to connect their present troubles with their past sins. The guilt they had carried for 20 years was finally bubbling to the surface, and Joseph's test was pushing them to confront the men they had become. Section 2. I am Joseph. When the brothers returned to Canaan and told their father, Jacob, what had happened, he was devastated. The thought of losing Benjamin, his last son from Rachel, was too much to bear. He refused to let him go, accusing his sons of robbing him of his children. Joseph was gone. Simeon was gone, and now they wanted to take Benjamin. But the famine continued to worsen, and their food ran out. Judah stepped forward and showed how much he had changed. He made a solemn promise to his father, pledging his own life as security for Benjamin's safety.
I myself will guarantee his safety. You can hold me personally responsible for him.
Reluctantly, Jacob agreed. The brothers traveled back to Egypt, bringing double the silver and the finest gifts from their land. They appeared before Joseph. He saw Benjamin with them and instructed his steward to take them to his home for a private meal. The brothers were terrified, thinking it a trap because of the silver. At Joseph's house, they were treated as honored guests. Simeon was released, and they prepared to dine with the powerful ruler. Joseph saw Benjamin and was overcome. He left to weep privately. During the meal, Joseph conducted one final test. His silver cup, a symbol of authority, was secretly placed in Benjamin's sack of grain. The next morning, as they headed home, Joseph sent his steward after them to accuse them of stealing the cup. The cup was found in Benjamin's sack. They were dragged back to the city in despair. Joseph declared Benjamin guilty, to be his slave, while the others could go free. This was the ultimate test. Would they abandon Benjamin to save themselves? Judah stepped forward and delivered a moving speech. He warned that their father would die of grief if Benjamin did not return. He spoke of the guilt and sorrow that had haunted their family. Then he offered himself in Benjamin's place.
Let your servant remain here as my lord's slave, and let the boy return with his brothers.
Seeing this selfless love, Joseph could no longer control himself.
He sent the Egyptians out and weeping loudly revealed, "I am Joseph. Is my father still living?"
His brothers were stunned into silence. Section 3. The family moves to Egypt. The brothers stood in stunned silence, unable to process the shocking revelation. The powerful Egyptian governor who held their lives in his hands was the brother they had betrayed. They were filled with fear and shame, expecting retribution. But Joseph's next words were not of anger, but of grace and divine perspective. He told them to come closer. "Do not be distressed, and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." He explained that the 2 years of famine were only the beginning. There were 5 more to come. Joseph gave them a breathtaking view of God's grand plan. He saw that all his suffering, the betrayal, the slavery, the imprisonment, was part of a larger purpose. He told them, "God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance." He repeated, "So then, it was not you who sent me here, but God." This is one of the most powerful statements of faith in the entire Bible. Joseph did not ignore or excuse their sin, but he saw that God had woven even their evil actions into a beautiful tapestry of redemption and salvation for the entire family. Overjoyed, Joseph embraced his brothers, weeping on each of their necks. The fear and tension finally broke, and they were able to talk with him freely. When Pharaoh heard the news that Joseph's brothers had come, he was delighted. He saw this as an opportunity to honor the man who had saved his country. He commanded Joseph to send his brothers back to Canaan with wagons and provisions to bring their entire family, including their father Jacob, to live in Egypt. Pharaoh promised them the very best land in the country, the fertile region of Goshen, where they would be safe from the famine. When the brothers returned to Jacob and told him that Joseph was alive and was the ruler of all Egypt, the old man's heart was numb. He could not believe them. But when he saw the wagons that Pharaoh had sent, his spirit revived. In a moment of pure joy and renewed hope, Jacob declared, "I'm convinced. My son Joseph is still alive. I will go and see him before I die." The long years of mourning were over. The family, once torn apart by hatred and lies, was now being brought back together by forgiveness and God's miraculous provision. The journey to Egypt was not just a move, it was the next step in fulfilling the promise to Abraham. Section 4. The Patriarch's Final Blessing and a Promise Kept. The entire clan of Jacob, about 70 people in all, packed up their belongings and made the long journey to Egypt. They stopped at Beersheba, rich with family history, where Jacob offered sacrifices to the God of his father, Isaac. That night God spoke to him in a vision.
"Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will surely bring you back again."
This promise showed God's plan for Abraham's descendants. The reunion between Jacob and Joseph was deeply emotional. After 22 years, the father who thought his son was dead and the son who had been betrayed and enslaved were finally together. They embraced and wept.
"Now I am ready to die, since I have seen for myself that you are still alive."
Joseph settled his family in Goshen, where they prospered and multiplied greatly. They were safe and provided for, even as the famine raged. Years later, Jacob, old and near death, called Joseph, Manasseh, Ephraim, to his bedside. Jacob crossed his hands and blessed the younger Ephraim over Manasseh. He adopted Joseph's sons, giving them inheritance and elevating Joseph's house. He then called all 12 sons and gave each a final prophetic blessing. Finally, Jacob refused burial in Egypt. He made his sons swear to carry him back to Canaan and bury him in Machpelah. Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, Leah. Jacob's request showed his faith that Egypt was temporary and Canaan was the promise. After Jacob's death, his sons honored him and carried him back to the promised land. The promise that began with Abraham had come full circle. Section 1. A tapestry of promise and pain. We have journeyed through 30 chapters of Genesis, following one of the most dramatic family stories ever told. We started with Abraham, a man of great faith who still stumbled with fear, yet saw God's promise fulfilled in the miraculous birth of his son, Isaac. We watched as that promise was passed to a quiet son who learned to trust God. The story then exploded with conflict through Isaac's twin sons, Jacob, Esau. Their rivalry, fueled by parental favoritism and personal ambition, led to deception, exile, decades of pain. Yet even in his flight, Jacob encountered God and became the bearer of the covenant. His name changed to Israel. The family drama intensified with the next generation. Jacob's favoritism for his son Joseph ignited jealousy in his brothers, leading to a terrible betrayal. They sold their brother into slavery and deceived their father for over 20 years. Joseph's story took him from a pit of despair to a position of power in Potiphar's house, then to a prison dungeon because of a false accusation. Through it all, a consistent theme appears. The Lord was with Joseph. Even in the darkest moments, God's unseen hand was guiding and preparing him for an incredible purpose he could not yet see. The climax was not revenge, but forgiveness and reconciliation. Driven by famine, Joseph's brothers bowed before him in Egypt. He had every right to punish them. Instead, after tests to gauge their hearts, he revealed himself and offered grace. "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." God had woven their sinful actions, his personal suffering, and a global crisis into a plan to save their family and preserve Israel. This journey reinforces powerful truths. God is faithful to his promises, even across generations. The heroes of our faith were deeply flawed, like us. They made mistakes, hurt each other, and struggled with fear and doubt. Yet God never gave up on them. He used their failures as soil for faith to grow. This winding, messy, and beautiful story shows God's purpose is bigger than our problems, and his grace can redeem the most broken family stories. Section 2. Your family story and a living hope. So, what does this ancient family saga mean for us today? First, it gives us a realistic lens through which to view our own families. No family is perfect. Many of us have experienced pain, misunderstanding, or conflict with those closest to us. Favoritism, jealousy, deception. Genesis reminds us this is not new. The family chosen by God to bless the world was filled with dysfunction. This doesn't excuse harm, but it offers comfort. Our messy realities don't disqualify a meaningful story. Practical takeaway. We are invited to become agents of healing and reconciliation in our families. Joseph's story shows the power of forgiveness. He looked past deep hurt and saw God's redemptive work. This isn't ignoring pain or pretending betrayals didn't happen. It means asking God for strength to let go of bitterness and grace to see people through his eyes. Small steps. Judah's selflessness. Breaking a negative family pattern. Choosing kindness. Trust in a steady, unfolding hope. Abraham died long before he saw a great nation. Jacob didn't understand losing his son. Joseph suffered for 13 years without knowing his purpose. They trusted God was working behind the scenes, weaving their lives into a bigger promise. We may not understand our hard chapters, but we can trust a loving author is still writing. The saga points to future hope. The promise to Abraham, through his offspring all nations would be blessed, ties it together. It looks forward to a time when brokenness will be fully healed. As we close, hold on to that hope. reflect on your family story, and choose reconciliation where you can. Trust that difficult parts can serve a larger redemptive purpose in the hands of a faithful God.